Hey, Wimbledon World Entertainment, and this is the non-spoiler review for Superman. James Gunn's Superman, or as Nerdrotic likes to call it, Superman's James Gunn. Now, before we dive into it, I will say, because I'll probably forget otherwise, if you're wondering, is there post-credit scenes? Yes, there is. There are two. There's a mid-credit and a post-credit. Don't know whether you'd want to stick around to watch them. They are absolutely nothing, especially the mid-credit scene. I will tell you now what they are because they don't spoil the movie. They don't add anything to the movie. They don't set up the next movie or anything like that. The mid-credit scene is the poster that we've seen for quite a while of Superman and Krypto on the moon staring back at Earth. The only difference is Krypto's not actually sitting beside him looking back at the Earth. He's sitting on his lap with his head resting on his shoulder, looking back at us. The scene lasts about 6 seconds, maybe 10, and nothing is said. They're sitting there staring back at the Earth. Well, Superman is, Krypto's looking at us, and that's it. That's the mid-credit scene, and the post-credit scene is also something we've actually seen the image of. If you remember the image of Mr. Terrific and Superman standing facing a building looking up, and everyone was like, what is that? What are they looking at? This is the post-credit scene. It's that, you've seen it in the trailer, so again, it's not a spoiler, that the big rift opens up in Metropolis and it splits the city. The end, like this post-credit scene, is clearly they were fixing the city, but Superman is kind of looking at a crack in the building that Mr. Terrific put back together, and it's not right, it's crooked a bit. And he's kind of going, And Mr. Terrific starts calling him out on it, going like, what? And he's like, nothing, it's a little off. And Mr. Terrific gets in a huff and walks off. And this is the weird part, like this is how it closes out, is that Superman does a very Clark Kent thing here. Because he goes, gosh darn it, I really can be a jerk sometimes. And it's just like, that's not Superman, that's Clark. But that's the two credit scenes, the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene. So if you want to stick around and look at them, go ahead, but they do nothing. They add nothing. I definitely don't understand what the purpose of the mid-credit scene is. It's like, it's nothing. Overall, the movie, did I enjoy it? Did I hate it? Did I feel like, oh, this is terrible or anything? No, it's for me, I wasn't totally disappointed in it, but I wasn't like loving it either. First of all, the humor that is throughout this movie, and I mean it is all over the place in this movie, does not work at all. Like, at all. My screen was fairly full and there was no reaction from anyone with any of the jokes, at least not that I could hear. Now granted, a few of them were kids, but whatever. But yeah, it's all over the place with the humor. Like, it's everywhere. And unfortunately, this is the one thing James Gunn has brought over. Well, actually, the two things he's brought over from Marvel, which I was fearing that he would, and I hope it doesn't continue, is that Marvel humor, which just doesn't work in this. And of course, post-credit scenes. I don't want to have to be sitting for an extra X amount of time to watch post-credit scenes. Mind you, the credits actually weren't as long as a Marvel movie, which I found interesting. But, and the other thing that he does inject in here, not as much as he did with Guardians, is music. Like, songs. But when it kicks in, the main song that starts playing in it almost takes you out of the movie. But the music in it is terrible. And that includes the score. The score is horrible. It's unbelievably forgettable. It opens with the John Williams theme, but that kind of gets reworked throughout the movie, and it's just completely forgettable. You think Superman, you always go to the John Williams, but then that Hans Zimmer score for Man of Steel also just gets you as well. And that was a movie and a theme that when you watched, you were like, I want that soundtrack. You don't have that with this at all. The music is horrible. The good stuff, yeah, Corn Sweat is a decent Superman. Now, I have a feeling he is going to be the new Henry Cavill, which is, he's a good choice for Superman. He looks the part, he acts the part, for the most part anyway. And you'd like to see him, but as Superman. And that is one of the issues. It's like, Yeah, you're kind of gone completely and very hard in the opposite direction to Zack Snyder's, which of course was the darker, moodier version, where this goes polar opposite, where it's too bright and too like, oh, we gotta have fun and stuff. It's weird. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, yeah, she is decent. There is a couple of moments where you kind of go, it's not endearing to the character. You kind of go, why is she being like this? But yeah, it's weird, but she's decent. Mr. Terrific, he was good as well. All the other characters are basically, they're not all there. Like, they're not throughout the movie, but they're also not absent throughout the movie, if that makes sense. It's like, it's much more than cameos, but at the same time, they're not very much supporting roles. More so with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. And Metamorpho is barely in it. The one character that I feared would end up being annoying, and no, it's not Crypto, even though Crypto is pretty annoying for the parts that he's in anyway. It's the Eve Taskmaster. I said from all the trailer stuff, I was like, I think she's gonna end up being like just this head melt, and that's exactly what she is. She's this ditzy head melt that, like, yeah, it just gets stupid with her. Jimmy Olsen is there, but here's the biggest issue I have with all these characters. Now, by the way, I should say, this is one of the fears that we all had as fans, was, are they overbloating this movie with characters? Yes, they absolutely are, and they absolutely did. There are far too many characters, and James Gunn tries to give all of them time to shine. That's an issue, because it takes away from what you should be paying attention to. And the likes of Jimmy Olsen and stuff, there's all these stories with all these characters, but you're not told exactly what these stories are. They're not flushed out by any means. You know, by the time you meet them, it feels like they didn't bother with any backstories, but at the same time, you're supposed to know these characters in and out from what the movie is telling you, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't, and it lets the movie down. Crypto, who I brought up, every single scene you see him in is exactly what you saw him as in the trailer. Like when he comes in and he's jumping on Superman, that's all he does. That's literally all he does, is run around and jump and bite things. It's like, yeah, you could have done a lot more with this character, and they didn't. It's like, James Gunn says it's based off his dog, and it's just like, yeah, that joke wears thin very, very quickly, as do all the other jokes. And that comes to the point of Lex Luthor then, which is, he's a character now. He was good. Wasn't great, but he was good. And the reason he's not great is because he is kind of all over the place as well. He kind of flip-flops between almost like an impression of the Gene Hackman version, but then he tries to go and be this ruthless aggression part of it. And it's like, they're not gelling together right, because you're showing him be this way, but then you're showing him be that way. And the other issue you get with him, and the whole kind of plot around him and stuff, is he's got technology and all these things that there's no explanation as to how he got all of this stuff. Like, yes, the interdimensional stuff is true and all that stuff. Every single thing, by the way, we've heard about this, is true. But there's no explanation as to how he got this technology. How he found... They're just like, oh, he created a different dimension. It's not that he found it. They said specifically he creates it. And you're like, how? And that's never explained. The other issue that James Gunn has with this movie is that it's very fast. There's no time to rest with anything. It just jumps from scene to scene to scene to scene. And the problem when they're doing it is it's happening while you should be learning things. It's like, this is a part where we should be figuring stuff out. Like, how did Lex actually get this technology? How did he get this information and stuff? And it doesn't. It gives you, like, I don't know, 20 seconds of explanation, and then boom, you're on to the next scene, and the same thing happens over and over again. Ma and Pa Kent are dumb as hammers. They really are. Now, the best scene in the movie we actually do get, and it's in the trailer, which is the scene with Clark and Pa Kent. It's a very short scene, but it's also the only scene that lets sit for a couple of seconds. Longer than anything else. Everything else that happens, they do that Marvel thing is, oh, we can't let this sit. It's going to be heavy. Quick, throw the dog in there to disrupt it or something. It's going to be a movie that definitely divides people a hell of a lot, because people are truly, we've heard people say this, and after seeing it, it is true. You're either going to love this thing or you're going to hate this thing. I think there's only going to be a handful of us that kind of walk away going, I didn't hate that, I didn't love it, but I definitely didn't hate it. The one thing is it better than Man of Steel? Honestly, I don't know. I don't think so. In my opinion, I don't think so. And I think the reason for me that it's not as good as Man of Steel is it doesn't really give Superman the chance to shine. Now, you've probably heard this, and it unfortunately it is true and plays out that way, that he gets his ass kicked in every single fight that he's in. He cannot win a fight on his own at all. He needs help all the time. And it's like, wow. Now, the beginning of the movie, the very beginning, we're not shown Krypton or anything like that. We're given like a writing telling us 3 decades ago this happened, 3 hours ago this happened, blah blah blah, and it tells you basically, you know, this alien from Krypton crash landed on Earth. Then 3 decades ago he revealed himself to the world as Superman. 3 hours ago he got into a fight, and 3 minutes ago he lost his first fight. So what we're introduced to is Superman losing for the very first time. But the whole way people turn on him, yes, there is that hate campaign going against, but the way they turn on him and the reasons why, like, you can understand, but at the same time, it's like, if he's been Superman with you people for 3 years, why would you turn on him so quick? It gets convoluted. The whole thing in the parallel dimension thing and stuff, that, it pretty much goes nowhere. It's basically set up to introduce Metamorpho, but it goes nowhere and just becomes this gobbledygook, over the top Guardians of the Galaxy level action piece. That's all that's there for, and it doesn't work and it's stupid. Yeah, as I said, all the other characters, they're not really given time to shine, even though they're taking away big moments that we should be spending with Superman. And there's actually very little Clark Kent in this movie, which is surprising. But the tone, most of it works, and then it gets undercut with that proper James Gunn and Marvel humor, and it's just like, why did you inject that there? That doesn't make sense. The Engineer and Ultraman are pretty pointless, especially Ultraman. We all know what Ultraman is. I won't say it in this though, I'll keep that for the spoilers, even though I love, by the way, that there's websites that after the fan screening on Monday or Tuesday, there's a couple of websites immediately put out every spoiler, including images. It's like, you realise, you morons, this doesn't open for the rest of the world until Friday. And there's all these articles going, might be a spoiler now, but here's who this is, and here's what that is, and stuff. It's like, Jesus Christ. Supergirl, yes, she does show up. She's pretty much, but I should say, actually, before I go into that, because it's a scene with her, or the scene where she arrives, that there is one joke that did work for me, and it's with the robots. That robot number 4 is asking Superman, like, hey, maybe one day you'll give me a name. And Superman replies to him something, and he says something back, and it's the response that I found funny. It actually got a chuckle out of me. Then Supergirl shows up and she's drunk, so she crashes in the door. She's like, hey, why did you move the door? All this type of crap. She's there to get Crypto back because Crypto's her dog. And then you realise why Crypto is an absolute nuisance. It's because she's always drunk. I was wondering, like, how the hell is she meant to be drunk all the time? She keeps going to solar systems with red stars because they can get drunk that way. So if this is the character we're going to be introduced into Supergirl, yeah, that movie's in trouble. Millie Alcock, though, looks great in the role. She looked great in the suit and stuff she comes in. Now, she's wearing a jacket as well, but she looked great in the role. Perfect casting. Unfortunately, she might fall into the category that I think Corn Sweat and Henry Cavill are going to fall into. It's like, yeah, perfect casting choice, looks the part. Unfortunately, we're never going to get to see them actually be those characters, which is unfortunate. But again, I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't love it. For me, it is just a meh movie. Would I watch it again? Yeah, I think I probably would. I wouldn't go to see it again, but I'd probably definitely watch it online or something, like when it's on streaming or something again. Would I buy it on Blu-ray? I don't know. Maybe. I'd have to think about that, to be honest. But again, it is a bit of a mess of a movie. You're going to hear that. There are moments that are just like eye-rolling. Is it political, by the way? I should say that. Is it political, and does it get into the immigration? The immigration thing, no, it doesn't get into at all. So why they said that, I don't know, but it doesn't get into that. Political stuff, yeah, kind of. Now, you would look at these two countries that are fighting each other as a lot of people are pointing out. Oh, it's Israel versus Palestine. And you can see the similarities, but the problem is this was written before that conflict started. So it, even though it comes off, unless they went and reshot some of that stuff to make it seem more like that, but it should have been more kind of Russia versus Ukraine style thing. But that whole thing, that's almost a side plot, and it's weird. The plot is very messy, you know, and the problem with it is you're being introduced to all these characters 3 years into them being these characters, basically, but we're not being shown why they are this way, why they're doing what they're doing, all this type of stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, it feels like it's meant to be like the second, third, maybe even fourth season of a show. So I don't know. I think you're really gonna have to make up your own mind as to whether you like it or hate it or how you feel to it. For me, again, it's just a meh movie. It's not terrible by any means. You know, it's better than the marketing, I'll put it that way, for the most part. Not all of it, but the most part of it is. But yeah. Oh, and I shall leave off this part with this, is that they do make a massive change. You've probably heard about this, but they have made a massive change to Jor-El and Lara, and that is going to piss people off, especially big Superman fans. I hate it. Everyone else I've seen hates it, and I don't know why they did it. But overall, that's the non-spoiler review for Superman. So if you've seen it, do let me know what you think of it. And with that, I shall leave this one here for now. So like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.